Hello, good morning, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Design Lab Challenge. Okay, so this week episode we'll be doing a Wordmark logo. Okay, very simple one, and this straight to the point. These are the basic processes we are going to pass through in this design process. So the first step is we are going to choose a font type that's going to work with the styling we want. The next is pre-arranging the font. This involve manipulating, not manipulation actually, a kind of placing capital letters where it should be, small letters depending on the kind of font you want to use, choosing if you want to make all cap lock or you want to make them lowercase, or you want to make some cap lock and some lowercase. So capital letter, small letter, capital letter and small letter, and so on and so forth. So next we do expanding, and this implies converting this a text element to become an icon. Okay, so now it's no more a text which you can add another letter to. It is now an icon which you can expand or use the curvature tool or the pen tool or whatever tool to expand it or extend it to whatever styling you want. And that takes us to rearranging the font. So this time around in expanding, we will do an ungrouping formula there, so we can be able to pull out 1 and 2 of these fonts separately with the direct selection tool. Okay, so now the rearranging form will have to be when we are going to put all these text, arrange them in a way that it's going to match well, because when the font comes in, it is not very aligned the way we want. So we can put this capital letter above this small letter and creating a kind of scene that makes everything not too long. This time around we are using a very long name, as you can see here, Frames Natural. This is the font, this is the name of the brand we'll be designing today. And why I choose this name is because it's long, and the shorter the name, the more interesting this design will look. But I choose this longer name so you can see how creative we can go with it and how far we can do to make things look still simple. Okay, so now rearranging fonts is just like making it not to look too long, even though the name looks too long. Okay, now manipulation, here we are going to now style some part of this design or part of this element which is not a font anymore, which is now an icon. We're going to do a little bit of manipulation, picking stuffs from here to there, then styling the font. We have to add colors to it, add icons if we want to, and so on and so forth. So that is a breakdown of what we're doing today. Don't be afraid of what I just listed. It is just that I listed it here. If I was just doing it like I do before, it is not a big deal. Okay, it's very, very simple arithmetic. It's very simple analogy, very simple process to go through. Some of this process won't take us more than a minute to do. So sit back and watch to the end, watch through the process. There's a lot you will learn. I'm gonna give you guys just 10 seconds to click a like button, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and remember to place a comment where necessary. Okay, while you're watching you can place a comment, but most importantly like this video, because this is going to be very interesting for us to practice with. So now let's get into the main business. So we take this out of the way. Let's just reduce it so we can follow up our process from here. So now we're going to bring in our name, Frames Natural. Let's just type it ourselves. So this time around, usually if I click on an text element, I usually like increasing the size. Very important. I could zoom closely, but I think this is okay. I think you can see from there. So now this is the time we are going to choose a font. The number one step is for choosing a font. Each step we get through, we are going to erase it from here. Okay, so now first we choose a font we are going to use. So we select all, we choose our font. Look at the font we are going to use, Brilion 1.0. Now I'm going to provide you multiple fonts you are going to use. I'm going to provide multiple font names in the description of this video. Scroll down, you're going to see multiple font name you can choose from to make your work. Okay, I don't think I'll be giving you guys list of names to make your works according to those names. I might not do that. I might do that in the assignment. If you are not in the group, there is a link in this video description to join our WhatsApp group. That is where we host and review these projects. Last week is over, so this is the new project we'll be reviewing. Now this video, like I said, this font is the one I'll be using personally. You might use it if you like, but for the best practice you can use others, try others out and see if you can do something cool with those. So now let's go choose Brilion. And to choose a font is for newcomers. Choose a font. You click on, you must be on the font element. Let me zoom closely so you see. So this is the font element. So if you are here, you won't be able to see the font element, especially if you click out, you won't be able to see the font element anymore. So make sure you select on the text element. Okay, now click on the text element. It's very simple from here. Then you can select the font we want to work with. So we type brilion 1.0. That is it. So we click on it and boom, we are here. Very good. So now this is the basic of what we need to do in number one, choosing a font, and that is fine for me. So to choose a font is very simple to do, not as simple as I just did now. Okay, so to choose a font, there are many stuff that are required for you to understand. So you need to know if this kind of design you're making is for a fashion brand, or is for a company, a more serious company, or for label, product label, and so on. So that will determine what kind of font you are going to use. I'll make a video specifically for font choosing, okay, font choice making. I'll make a tutorial on that, and I'll give you multiple examples and multiple scenarios where you can use that practices. Now that I am using brilion on this particular brand design we are making today doesn't mean you can't use any one of your choice. Okay, you can use any one of your choice to make whatever you want, as long as you can do a little bit of modification to that. Okay, let's continue since we have understand that. So we select that. Let's start typing our name. Select all. To select all, click on the element, text element, click on Control and A. It will select everything that you have initially selected. So now let's type in our font name. So this is the pre-arranging process. Now the name of the font is Frames Natural. Now it is here we start deciding if we want to style the font in different ways. Now we are going to type all this in capital letter, so we see how it looks, the font looks. Now this is basically partly how to understand the kind of font that's going to work for the brand you are working with. Okay, why I like this font is out of the box it have a nice styling. Okay, it have nice styling out of the box, but as you can see, nothing looks very real here. This doesn't look nice at all. It's a little bit confusing. Okay, it's a little bit confusing. So this is time we can now decide what we do with it. Now we are going to duplicate this by holding the alternate key in your keyboard, Alt, and dragging out this text. Okay, by so doing you have duplicate, and that's how to duplicate anything you want to duplicate on Illustrator, in Illustrator. Okay, so now we have this and we set it apart. Why are we keeping this apart? So we see if there is any problem, we can revert to this. To create multiple fonts, you can duplicate this also, and you can test another font. Let's try silver, if we have silver crown. Okay, so fine. Now you see the font we have, the second one, you can keep it. This is just basically how to choose a font. You can come back and say, okay, let's try another one. So we choose something like so, or okay, let's choose this. You see multiple different fonts with different sizing. You can now reduce them and start selecting. This is how I choose my font initially, but this is not the tutorial for today. I'll make a specific one for that. So let's get back to our business. So now we are going to select all this again and start a different styling. We are going to use small letter this time around to see how it works. So frames is going to go for small letter this time. Frames Natural. Fine. You see how that looks? So we place this beneath this other name and resize it to match close to that. So we have the capital letter and have the small letter, the same font, and look at the way they look differently. Okay, but the client for this want a stylish font like this. But the problem we are having with this is that it is not being very easy for people to consume. So it's not easy for people to set their eyes on and understand what is happening there. So we are going to keep creating. So this time around we are going to mix both capital letter and small letter together to get what we want. So select everything. We go capital letter. I think let's try small letter this time around. Let's try small letter to start with. Then the second, let's try capital letter. That might look wacky to you, but let's just continue. Second, we try another capital letter, if that's fine. Let's try another small letter. Let's try another small letter, and let's try another small letter. And in natural, we start usually the first of this second should start with capital letter, because the first of this started with small letter. If we continue with small letter, it's not going to make much sense. Okay, it could along the line, because if we say okay A here, then T capital letter and U ROAL small letter. This also looks nice to me. For me, it also look nice. Okay, I think we go with this. I like this. Okay, I like that. I would have gone the capital for the first of the second initial of the second word. So let's go capital letter this time around and see how that looks. Okay, I think the small letter works fine for me. Okay, if this work fine, just follow your heart. Whatever works for you, just do just that. Okay, so we are done with this, but the problem we are facing, we are having a lot of space in this angle. Okay, so if we look at this angle, we are having a lot of space, and we don't want that too much space in that particular angle. Every other part looks fine to me. So to fix that, we are going to move to the second stage. So now we are going to pre-arrange the font. Now this is what we have done. Pre-arranging the font simply means choosing the particular font style, whether it's capital letter or small letter, or capital and small letter mixed together. Okay, so we have done with number 2, so we are going to erase number 2. So we move to number 3, expanding this font. Very simple. Why we expand the font is so that we can differentiate between these fonts separately. We can have granular control of each and every one of these fonts. For instance, now we can't move L up or down because all of these are in one element, which is the font element, unless we have to type them separately, which is a very huge and hectic work to do, which we don't have that time today. So now to do that, what we're going to do is to head over to objects, scroll down until you find expand, and click on expand. Click on OK, and that's all you need to do. This is one way to do your expand. Let's go back, Ctrl Z to go back to what we have before. The second way to do expand is to select it, hold your Ctrl and Shift, then click on O. That is it. So that's the 2 ways to do your expand. Now we have expanded these 2, but there's a problem we have here. Okay, now look at the problem we have. If we want to select this S separately with the selection tool, we can't do that. It will select everything together, assuming it is still the text. Now to select these things separately, we could do that with the direct selection tool by selecting direct selection tool from this angle. This is direct selection, and this is direct selection tool, and this is direct selection tool. Now the difference between these 2 tools is this: the selection tool selects everything that is grouped, and the direct selection tool selects a single element that is separate, even if it is grouped. You understand that? So let me explain what that means. So we are going to select the direct selection tool, which selects single thing even if these things are grouped. For instance, we see from this angle that everything from this particular element is grouped. How you know that is select the selection tool and select everything, and you see from the right corner in your property panel. If you don't see property panel, click on the window until you see the property, click on it, you will see it pop out around here. So from the property panel, you see that we have here on group, which means this element is grouped. Now if we click on group, automatically we can now select these things separately with the direct selection tool or the direct selection tool, but that's not what we want. Okay, so let's leave it at grouped. Okay, now with grouped, if we select the direct selection tool, we can now move these things separately without affecting the others. But the problem here is this: whenever we still go back to the selection tool to select all our elements, look at what happens. Look at what happens. Everything goes with it, even the R. You understand why? Because the direct selection tool doesn't respect the movement of an element. It only respects whether it is grouped or ungrouped. So these elements are still grouped, but we can use the direct selection tool to directly select a particular element out of it, or to arrange it the way we want. And that is what we want for this tutorial. Okay, so now let's start styling with direct selection tool. We have expanded the file, so let's erase that. You see how fast we are going with our tutorial. So number 4 is rearranging the fonts. Sorry about that. Number 4 is rearranging the fonts. Now let's rearrange this to make it look nice. So now we are going to bring this F closer to the R. Very important. So we use the direct selection tool to do that. Remember, direct selection tool select, and it doesn't respect whether it is grouped or ungrouped. So we select on this, you click on your arrow forward to get it close. That is number 1 is done. And number two, I don't know if we can move this closer. No, let's not move that closer. We are going to do a little more styling to that letter. So this is okay. Now the T from here is where we have problem. From TURAL is where we have problem. So you can use the direct selection tool still and drag. Okay, see, don't make sure you don't drag any part of the A. So you can start from the bottom part where I didn't touch the A and drag everything. Make sure you start from a point that makes more sense. Okay, something like this. Fine. So we drag everything from there, then we use our arrow back to move it back close to the font which it relies on, okay, or which we want it to get close to. Fine. So now we have it now close to each other, and this is just what we are looking at to achieve in this tutorial. We can further separate this from this. The spacing is not enough, and this is enough for now. So fine, I have a problem from here. We have to start correct. There's a problem from this angle. So to correct this problem, to make it more smoother, hold your, let me zoom so you see, curvature tool. Click on the curvature tool, then click on this part. You can either delete it and see if it causes, if it doesn't cause problem, you can now rearrange this part to make it look more smooth. You see how I did that? Very simple, okay, fine. So we can zoom out now. Our font is now smooth as we want it to be. So we have done what? Rearranged the font, which is very important, number 4. So let's head to number 5, which is manipulating these fonts. So in manipulation, we could do multiple things. We could do multiple things in manipulation. One, let's just add a little bit of styling to this T. So we could add a circle inside of this part. We are going to still go with black. We don't want white. Cancel. Okay, fine. So we add a very little circle from this part. Make sure it's centered. Let's see how that looks from outside. Remember, design is all about how it looks to you. If it doesn't look nice, you have to pull it off. So we are going to exempt this for now. We are going to come back. Remember, we are trying to make this as simple as possible. Okay, we are trying to make this as simple as possible. So now let's get into text manipulation in proper. So now, if we want to manipulate a text, there are multiple ways to do it. You can use the direct selection tool to select a particular part. Probably want to make this I longer. Let me zoom closely so you see. Want to make this I longer, you can select the particular part and use your arrow up key to increase the size of that part. That is one way of manipulation. We can do that to N too, maybe the bottom part of this N. Okay, and that is it. You can style the L. This is what basically text manipulation look, but this look so awkward, and we are not going to use that styling format. So let's bring everything back as it was. Fine. So good. So now that is one form of what? Styling. So the second form of styling is by what? By expanding or extending these edges to the style you want them to look like. So we can basically select this particular part and zoom closely. From this edge, we can select the curvature tool and click on the parts, zoom more closer. So from this part, you can now start styling this angle. You can say, okay, let's pull it up a little. Okay, you can pull it down like this. Drag this part back to where it belongs. Drag this one forward a little. Expand this one. Expand this. You can click an anchor point from here. An anchor point will hedge it so you can now rotate without affecting the other part easily. So we see, add another anchor point from here, and we can start styling. You can continue styling. You can extend it, extend this part, extend this part. Add another anchor point at this edge, add another anchor point at this edge, extend a little more, and the more you keep doing. So now what you do is just what? Make this part smoother. All these ending parts will be smoother, and that makes a little more sense. Fine. So let's see what we've just created now. So you see the curve there. Why we are adding that curve there is because this T have a curve at this edge. So we add a curve at the end of this M. That is what text manipulation. I'm just showing you all these things. I don't have time to, style this thing the way I could. But we're just doing some basic things to make you understand how to do some basic manipulation techniques or tactics. So now we are done with understanding what text manipulation is. Let's get to the last version, which is styling of the font. So fine. This part, there are many things involved. One is coloring. We can import our color from our color palette. I sent you guys color palette in the last tutorial. So if you don't have it, watch the last tutorial. You will see where I pointed the color palette. My color palette, actually, I created color palette that you guys can use. So to apply this color green to this particular design, all you need to do is select all the design, then select on the eyedropper tool, click on it, and that is it. Then click on the color you want to apply, and that is just as simple as ABCD. You see it as so. So now let's style this color a little more, because on a white background this won't show very well. You see, some parts are too bright and we don't want just that. So how do we style this? Use the direct selection tool, select the part you want to style, then select on the gradient tool from over here. Fine. Then you can draw from a particular age to another age. Just like that. Let's see what we have. Fine. Okay, so see the difference between this and natural. We are going to do the same thing. Apply something to the natural. Or let's draw this from the back. Fine. Okay, let's try something else. Let's expand it the more. Expand. Fine. So we have frames natural. And this is the basic part of our logo design. Now, let's go a little bit advanced from here. Now, you can stop here if you want, but I would like you to add a little more touch and feel to this particular design. Now, let's go ahead to add a little more touch to this. Natural should be naturals, not naturals. Sorry about that. So let's pick an S from this angle. Okay, let's just duplicate this S. We already have an existing S. So use the direct selection tool to point a particular part of it, and we'll drag it out, and that is it. Fine. So we have an S at edge now. So we can further reduce this a little, so we can have further control for what we have or what we want to do. Now let's try to create some kind of a leaf effect. So to create a leaf effect, all you need to do is to draw a half circle, not just half a circle. The circle must have to have a pointed edge. To create a pointed edge in this circle, this disturbing circle, what you need to do is select on the curvature tool over here, okay, and click on the edge of that particular element. Select on the curvature tool. We didn't select it then. Click on this edge of where you have these points. Let's zoom closely. Okay, so click on this point, double click on it, so it will be pointed, and that is what we want. You can also double click on this part, it will be pointed too. You can use it to expand this part a little, and also expand this part a little. Fine. So now let's create a kind of a stroke or outline from the inside of the flower or the leaf. Let's expand it a little more, So fine. So let's create that style from inside of it. There are two ways you can create this. One, you can use a line tool to draw from here to this edge or the edge you want. Okay. Now add a stroke to the line. Add a stroke from there to the line. Okay, you see white stroke as we have there. Now, as we have added the stroke, head over to the stroke element. Okay, in this part of the stroke element, in this part, this ending part, we want, okay, not the arrow part. In the ending part from here, we want the edge to be like so. So click on this, and we have this part. You see it? Now, if you click on this, we have it like this, if that's what we want, if this is okay for us. So this is exactly what I'm looking at. So fine, we have the flower like so, but it's not done because this part we can't remove that part from the flower. We want to be able to remove this part from this flower so that we can control this flower on its own. So what we do is to expand this element. You know what I show you about expanding? Go to objects and click on expand appearance, and that is it. So now we expand appearance, select the both of them. Okay, I'm not moving very fast. Select both of them. We have to remove this thing and make it remove the background of the part of this green which it relies on. So to do that, what you do, select the both of them. Now click on your shape builder tool from here. Click on it. Fine. Now hold on your Alt key, Alt key, and drag from the part you want to remove, and that is it. It's removed now. So how do you know it's removed? Now we can now select on the curvature tool and point at this edge. We can now control this part from here. You see that it is removed from this angle. So we bring it back and we continue what we are doing. So one thing, we have to apply the color, the same color gradient we used for this background. So select on it and select the eyedropper tool and apply the gradient to it. Select your what they call it, a gradient tool, and style the gradient the way you want it to be, from up to down or from front to back. So fine, so we have it like so, and that is what we want. Now you can now revolve it like so and reduce the size to match. Make sure everything you are doing looks simple and neat. Don't make everything look very big. Let everything look very, very simple. Simplicity makes your design look very nice, okay? Look simple and very neat. So since we are adding the bold flower to leaf to this part, we are going to add a small part of the leaf to the other part. So we revolve it again like so and reduce the size of the flower from here. So let's revolve this a little more. Just do whatever works for you. You're not going to break anything. If you make mistake, you try again. I'm here, always here to review you. So now we've applied this. Let's do a little change to this particular flower. What we need to do is to make this flower larger from this edge, so we can increase it from here and increase it. Why are we doing this? Why we are doing this is we want this flower to look different from the second one. Even if somebody look at this, oh, this thing looks tinier, we can further reduce the size of this particular flower and letting the other one shine also, even though it is small or smaller. So for that thing you can do is to what? Apply our advanced gradient. Very important. Applying advanced gradient is very important. So how do we get an advanced gradient from here? So what you do is click on the curvature tool, select this part, Ctrl Z, sorry about that. Supposed to add a pen tool. Use the pen tool and select all these parts. Okay, now you selected all the parts, select the both of them. So now we are going to remove this part that we don't want so that we can create that shape. So how do we do it? We have to go into the shape builder tool again, hold the Alt key and erase, drag to the part we don't want. It will erase it. Now we have two different elements. Okay, so this one now we are going to add a little bit of gradient styling so that it will look a little bit different from that one, the first one. So you see what we have now, the gradient looks more magical now than before. It's very simple and nice. You can add, anyway, let me not go more deep into this because this is not the plan for today. So you can still do the same thing with the second flower to make it look nice and simpler. So now we are going to copy these two flowers, group them, Ctrl G to group. Why we group them is so that whenever we click on this, any of them, you can select the both of them at the same time. Okay, so we go back to frame, drag it along to this frame edge, then we revolve it from this part. So this other one, the longer flower comes before the short one, but this other one, we want to make the shorter flower come before the longer flower. And that is fine for me. So this time you can increase this a little if you want. And we are almost good. Let's revolve this a little more. Let's revolve it a little more and we are fine from there. So we have exactly what we are looking at from here. It looks nice for me from here, and we could go a little more further than what we have now. So let's take it a little step, just a few steps further now. You can stop here if you want, just add a little bit of styling. I just want to see the creativity in your concept, okay? Make it simple as possible, as simple as you can. So now we are going to add a little bit of styling from here. Let's choose the pen tool and draw from this angle. Draw from this part, draw from this part, draw from this part, draw from this part, and this part. Okay, let's click on here and here. Fine. So now look at what we have. It looks very stupid, okay? But what we are going to do is to create a kind of styling that makes more sense to me and to you. What we're going to do is to what? Reflect this to what? Appear on the stroke line. So clicking on this will make it what? See what happened? It makes this color go to the stroke line instead of being the filled color. Okay, it goes to the stroke line, and that is exactly what we want. So let me zoom out. Let's continue from there. So we can click on the escape key to escape from the tool you are manipulating from. Now select on the curvature tool to what manipulate this color. Let's zoom closely, or manipulate these angles. Let's zoom closely. How to manipulate? You cannot just double click on this part, double click on this part, double click on this part, double click on this part. You see the kind of smooth edges it's creating just by double clicking on the part. There are many ways to create this. If you want, you can define your own format or your own formula for it. So now let's do a little bit of arrangement here. We want it to be more smoother than it is. That is fine for me. This is also fine. Let's add another anchor point at this edge. Fine, so good. I like that. Let's reduce this anchor point, increase these parts. Let's remove one anchor point from here. Let's just have one from this angle. And let's arrange these parts. I think this is okay for what we want. Fine. So this is basically to create this effect of this particular element springing out of the T from this angle. We need to do two things, okay? Or we use two approach to resolve that, or to create that effect. So one of which is you can go to your stroke elements, okay? Click on the profile beneath here and click on this particular element. By so doing, you see that I've created that particular shape from the beneath, and at the edge it is now slicky at the edge. So to increase it, you can use the stroke tool to increase it to the style you want, and you can reduce it from this particular style. Okay, that's one way to do it. The second way to do it is to use your shape width tool from this edge. The width tool from here, select on the width tool, and something I want to teach you about the width tool. So watch, we increase the width tool, see what we have. We increase it from here, see what we have. No. Okay, we increase it from here, look what we have. Okay, so now to look, this is how to work around the width tool. Okay, the width tool, you must expand from the edge so it can cascade down to the other parts of the design. Okay, that's one rule you should take very, very huge note of. And the width tool, you must not go inside the element before you can drag out. You can be close to it. As long as that bubble white shows, you can now drag out and it gives you the styling. So make sure you expand your width tool from the beneath the part you want it to be huge. Expand it from that edge, and that's how to achieve that particular effect with the width tool, okay? Or you use the width profile inside of the stroke element. So that's one thing. Next thing, we have to expand this particular element. To do that, go to your object and expand element. Expanding it makes it not to be a stroke anymore. Okay, since it's not a stroke anymore, we can now use the curvature tool to move around things or to rearrange stuffs the way we want. Fine. So now we're done with that. We have to join this particular element with this T. We don't want it to be left alone as it is now. So what we do is select on the direct selection tool. Okay, direct selection tool, select on it and hold your shift key and select on the T. Now to join this together, what tool we need is the pathfinder. But to pull out your pathfinder, you can go to window. If you don't have it in the right panel, you see pathfinder here, you click on it. But since we have it here, all you need is to click on the unite tool. So click on the unite, it unites this both together. So fine, so we can now expand this part. Thank God, or thanks to God, that we have a problem we are facing now. So look at the problem we have. We have an anchor point here, which means we can select this part and increase the radius edge, but we can't do that to this part. Now to solve that problem, you have to look at this project very closely so you find out where the problem is coming from. There is two anchor points from this part, as I can see. Select on it, zoom more closer. Okay, zoom more closer. We select on one, we delete. You see, as we delete one anchor point, we have the second one. This is zooming too much. You have the second one appear now. So that cases is most cases when two anchor points are in one place. If two anchor points are in one place, it won't allow your anchor point from the outer layer to show, so you can give it a radius. So now we have the stuff showing. To get the anchor point show, you can't use the selection tool to do that. You can't do your selection tool. You must select on the direct selection tool, then select on the element you want to style. So now to style different parts of anchor point, there are different ways to do it. See, we are having the same problem from this part, but we are not dealing with this part, but I'll show you how to do that from here. So to style different anchor points separately, what you do is what? Select one, hold the shift key, select another, still hold the shift key, you can select another, you can select another, you can select another as much as you want. Okay, so let's say for instance, don't want to do this, and we don't want to do this, we want to do only 1, 2, 3. As you have selected that 3, now increase the parts. Automatically, it will increase without the other parts being affected. Fine. So we want to what? Affect only this part and this other part. One more thing you should note is what? If there are anchor points closer to each other like this one, it won't allow this anchor point from your part to flow well. You have to delete everything close to that particular anchor point which you are what? Expanding, because if the expand reach to this anchor point area, it will stop expanding. So that's why you have to do that. So what? You select the anchor point now again. Now we can select on this part and select on this part and expand until we are satisfied with what we want. Okay, fine. So it's now assuming that the leaf is spranging out of that particular edge. So it's fine. So now we go to the final step, which is what? We are going to select this same leaf which we used, duplicate it. But this time around, we are going to increase the size very well. Increase the size very well. And rotate it a little. Why we rotate it is this: if you place it like this leaf is not flowing naturally inside of it. We want the leaf to flow directly inside of this particular element. So what we do, we rotate it to what? Flow according to that aspect. So fine. We can further what? Close this part of the leaf. Select the curvature tool, select on the part, and you can bring it closer to each other. We just want to close that point. Select this part too, and we can place it to the part we want it to be. Expand this. Fine. So we have that. Select this element also, and let's revolve a little more. Fine. So that's what we want. Now if you look at this design, we have 2 flowers here, 2 leaves here, and 2 leaves here. It look consistent, but that's consistent is not what we want here. We want stuff to look differently, so it will flow naturally. The same amount of leaves are not going to grow in the different angles of the tree. So we select on this particular element and duplicate it by dragging it out, holding the Alt key and dragging it out. So we can rotate it this time around and reduce the size from here. We're going to reduce the size from here and place it at this edge, and that is just it. So let's see what we've done. Let's see what we've done and how it looks. So fine, this is it. This is very simple to look at. You can further add your tagline. Make sure your tagline flows according to what you are typing. So I'm going to reuse the capital letter version of this. Okay, fine. Select all. We're going to call this natural cream. Control Z. So natural cream. Natural cream for natural people. Fine. This time around, we select everything. We use a lighter version of popping. Then we use a color green, a dark version of green. Fine, you can place that beneath here, and that looks a little natural, and that looks nice for me. You can reduce the size a little and expand the text. To expand the text, head over to this angle. You can give it a 200 sizing in space, and that is expanded now. Before, after. Hold on. So we go again. Let's go again. Control Z. Fine. So let's go again. We give it a 200 sizing. Fine. So like I said before and after. Fine. So we can now reduce it a little and make sure it is centered between the names. So that is it, and that's basically how to create a simple Wordmark logo for a brand like this. So I'll be sending you assignments in the group. If you have not joined the group yet, you can follow the link in the description below to join our WhatsApp group. And more so, some fonts will be provided for you to work with. I'm going to provide like about 8 fonts for you to work with, manipulate them the way you want. I want you to touch all parts, try to create something, and try to be creative. Now we are only creating for brands like this, brands like a cream brand, makeup brand, and so on and so forth. I'll put more description in the group. So if you have not liked and subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that now. Also share to your friends if you think this helps a lot. So that is it. Once again, my name is Manuel, signing out from Kata Graphics Academy. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay creative.